Imagine playing the most important match of your life. 120 minutes of punishing, physical warfare under the Cairo sun. You scored what you believed was the winning goal in the 117th minute. The trophy felt close enough to touch, but then with seconds left on the clock, your opponent scored. The whistle blew, and it ended in a draw with no penalty shootouts or golden goal. In 1974, the rules were different. If a final ended level, you returned 48 hours later and played it again. This was the 1974 Africa Cup of Nations final, the only final in the tournament's history to be played twice. A clash between a Zambian super team and a Zaire side playing under the shadow of a dictator. This is the story of the Ghost Final. To understand why this final mattered, you first had to understand the two forces that walked onto that pitch. On one side stood Zambia, known as the KK11, named after founding President Kenneth Kaunda. They were fearless, disciplined, and relentless. Led by figures such as Dixon Makwaza and the prolific Godfrey Chitalu, Zambia were playing in their very first Africa Cup of Nations. They had surged through the tournament and announced themselves as a new continental power. On the other side was the Leopards of Zaire, now the Democratic Republic of Congo. However, they were more than a football team, they were a political project. President Mobutu Sese Seko had poured resources into the squad, aligning them with his authenticity campaign. Cars, houses, and prestige came with a single instruction: to win. Zaire had already qualified for the 1974 World Cup, becoming the first sub-Saharan African nation to do so. Many believed they were the finest team Africa had ever produced. But Zambia didn't care about reputations. On March 12, 1974 at Nossa Stadium in Cairo, 55,000 fans filled the stands as the referee signaled the start. The match unfolded as a tactical standoff, neither side gave ground. Then in the 40th minute, Zambia struck. Simon Kashi found the net, sending the KK11 into halftime with a 1-0 lead. Zaire responded by unleashing their most lethal weapon, Ndaye Mulamba. They called him Mutombola, the assassin. In the 65th minute, Mulamba equalized. The match drifted beyond 90 minutes without a winner. Extra time followed, fatigue settled in, and the heat pressed down. Then in the 117th minute, Mulamba struck again. Zaire led 2-1 as their bench exploded in celebration. They believed the cup was secured, but they were wrong. In the final moments of extra time, Brighton Sinyangwe forced the ball home for Zambia to make it 2-2. The final whistle blew and the Zaire players collapsed in disbelief as Zambia celebrated survival. And with no penalties allowed under CAF rules, the final was ordered to be replayed. 48 hours later the teams returned to the same stadium, but the atmosphere was unrecognizable. The crowd of 55,000 was gone, it was a working day in Cairo, and Egypt was not involved, resulting in fewer than 1,000 spectators in attendance. It became known as the Ghost Final. The players' voices echoed through empty concrete stands. For Zaire, the pressure was suffocating. Mobutu was watching from Kinshasa. They had lost the trophy once already and they would not be forgiven for losing it again. From the opening whistle, one man decided the outcome. While Zambia looked heavy-legged after the marathon 2 days earlier, Mulamba appeared relentless. In the 30th minute, he gave Zaire the lead. Zambia tried to respond, but the energy was gone. In the 76th minute, Mulamba struck again with his fourth goal across the two finals. Zaire won 2-0 and the Leopards were crowned champions of Africa. That victory etched an immortal record into African football history. Mulamba finished the tournament with 9 goals. 2 against Guinea, 1 against Mauritius. 2 against Egypt in the semi-final, and 4 across the two finals against Zambia. In the modern era, golden boots are won with 4 or 5 goals. Mulamba scored 9 in 6 matches. More than half a century later, the record still stands. He was named Player of the Tournament, and returned home a national hero where he received the National Order of the Leopard. Yet the triumph was followed by heartbreak. Months later, the same squad traveled to the World Cup in West Germany. Plagued by unpaid bonuses and political interference, they collapsed on the global stage. After a 9-0 loss to Yugoslavia in their opening game, their ruthless leader Mobutu warned the squad not to lose by 4 goals or more to Brazil. With Brazil leading 3-0 late in the match, defender Mwipu Ilanga famously kicked the ball away from a free kick. Many years later he explained that it was an act of self-preservation, an attempt to waste time and avoid a potentially fatal 4th goal. Zaire lost 3-0, staying just below Mobutu's threat. Their tournament ended with a 2-0 defeat to Scotland, leaving Zaire goalless across all 3 matches. Despite surviving the dictator's ultimatum, the players returned home to silence and abandonment. The regime distanced itself from them, and many lived out the rest of their days in poverty. The world mocked them, forgetting what they had achieved in Cairo. The Confederation of African Football eventually adopted the penalty shootout rule after the International Football Association Board added it to the laws of the game in 1970. The first ever penalty shootout in AFCON history was in the semi-finals of the 1984 tournament in Abidjan, Côte d'Ivoire. In that match, Nigeria defeated Egypt 7-6 on penalties after the game ended in a draw after extra time. The first AFCON final to be decided by a penalty shootout was the 1986 edition in Cairo. The match between the hosts Egypt and Cameroon ended in a goalless draw after extra time, with Egypt winning the shootout 5-4. The 1974 AFCON final remains a singular moment in African football. A championship so tightly contested it required 2 matches to decide. A collision between Zambia's discipline and Zaire's power. And at the center of it all stood Ndaye Mulamba. A man who played 210 minutes of football in 48 hours and scored the goals that crowned a nation. Mulamba passed away in 2019, but his 9-goal record still towers over African football history. An enduring reminder of a time when the final had to be played twice. Did you know about the ghost final of 1974? And do you believe Mulamba's record will ever be broken?